Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first class of the TOEFL study plan. In this class, we're going to be talking about reading. That's kind of the way that things are going to go. We're going to talk about reading first, and then we are going to talk about listening, and then speaking, and then writing. The reason why we're going to do it that way is because that's how the TOEFL test is taken. It's done in that order. So first of all, thank you everybody for joining this class, because remember, you're going to help build the study plan for future TOEFL test takers. So the questions that you ask are going to be used by future people who go through the plan to, they might have the same question as you, or they might have the same doubt. So yeah, I do appreciate everybody who's here, everybody who's volunteering. You guys are awesome. And so let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to do a brief overview of the study plan, not very extensive or anything like that. And then we are going to dive into the reading material. All right, everybody, how are you doing? How's it going? Are you guys excited? Succession episode number 4. I think it was number 3, wasn't it, Tom? Succession episode number 3. Yeah, that was crazy. That was wild. Yeah. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and jump into this. Here we go. Okay, so what's included in this study plan? Like, why would you even want to do a study plan? What's the benefit? So benefit number 1 is going to be, it gives you structure. I think that's probably the number 1 benefit of any kind of study plan or lesson plan. It just gives you, like, you do this on day 1, you do this on day 2, etc., etc. Number 2 is homework. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of homework. Yay, homework. Awesome. Number 3 is going to be vocabulary. So again, that kind of ties into the structure, groups 1, 2, 3, stuff like that. Very similar to what we do in the GRE class. And then finally, number 4 is going to be feedback. You're going to get feedback on, obviously, the questions you ask. People are going to get feedback on the essays that they submit or the speaking questions that they practice. So you're going to get a lot of feedback on it. So yeah, these are the benefits of the study plan. The study plan is going to be very well laid out on the website. When you go to the top, gregmet.com, and you click on study plans, you're going to see a link there to the TOEFL plan in progress. You can definitely click on that and you'll find all of the relevant information there. Okay. How long is the study plan going to be? 2 weeks. I think it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't decided 100%, but I'm shooting for about 2 weeks. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't mean 2 weeks of classes, because remember, the study plan can condense a lot of that stuff much more quickly than these classes that we host. So my guess is these classes will take anywhere from a month to 2 months. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. What materials do you need? What materials do you need? Number 1, you need the TOEFL official guide. All right. Look how happy she is. She's studying the TOEFL. She's super happy. The second thing you're going to need is the official TOEFL IBT test volume number 1. So inside this book, you will actually find 5 practice tests, which is very nice. Number 3 is going to be the TOEFL IBT free practice test. Number 3, free. We always love free. And then finally, number 4, I will occasionally put stuff together, whether that be writing prompts or, like reading passages that you can't find in here, or the vocab list, for example, etc., etc. Okay, so before we actually jump into the reading, see that, reading time, does anybody have any questions about the study plan itself before we jump into the reading? Let's go to Sarthak. Hey, Sarthak, what's up?
Hi, Greg.
Hey.
In the study materials, you showed us there was one book, right? Volume 1. What about the volume 2?
It's a
I
good
saw
question.
one.
Yeah, it's a good question. Very good question. So volume 2 exists, everybody. So there's a volume 1 and a volume 2. Because this is only a 2 or 3 week study plan, I just didn't even think we would have time to get to volume 2. But if you want to buy it, I definitely don't think it's a bad idea.
Cool,
Oh,
thanks.
yep. Let's go to Subodh. Hey, Subodh, what's up?
Hi, sir.
Hey.
Sir, my question is, this seems similar to IELTS. So by doing this lecture, can we do IELTS? Give some IELTS exam?
It's a good question. I don't think this is going to hurt you for IELTS. However, the tests are quite different, to be honest. The TOEFL reading test is quite different than the IELTS reading test, and we'll talk about why that is in a second here. But put it this way, the IELTS reading test is primarily a study of vocabulary. The TOEFL test is a little bit different than that. So if you truly are studying for IELTS, like I said, I don't think this is going to hurt you, but you should probably wait for the IELTS study plan if we ever do that. Last question, let's go to Manav. Hey, Manav, what's up?
Hey, great. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Just wanted to know whether these materials are enough for the prep or do we need something more?
I would say it's almost more than enough if we're being completely honest. Yeah, I mean, how many practice tests do we really need? I mean, the official guide has 4 practice tests. This volume 1 has 5 practice. I mean, it's a lot of practice tests, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Good. All right. One more question. Hey, Diana, what's up?
Yeah, quick question. So those are the new books for the new TOEFL?
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. So everyone, the TOEFL's changing in July of this year. Now, it's not changing significantly. It's not like they're having different question types or anything like that, except for the writing, which we'll talk about later. But are they going to release new books? I don't know, to be honest. So these are just the most updated books.
Oh, okay. So I can purchase them on Amazon as well, right?
You can also purchase them on the ETS website. They're surprisingly affordable, and they actually send you a PDF over, which is kind of advantageous because remember, the TOEFL is taken on the computer. So the more you get used to looking at a monitor, probably the better.
How much is this book, Greg? Do you have any idea?
I think the whole set was like 40 or 50 bucks. It wasn't too terrible. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, everybody, let's jump into it. Like I said, reading time. So somebody alluded to it before, but the test is actually going to change a little bit. Remember, these are not big changes. So in the current version of the test, you have 3 scored reading passages. Each one of those is 18 minutes. So that's 18 times 3, a little bit of math, 54 minutes, 10 questions each, so 30 questions. Now, it is possible to have 4 passages. What happens there is they're essentially using you as a guinea pig. They're using you as a guinea pig to test out new questions or new reading passages. You don't know which one is unscored, but if that happens, of course, you're going to have 72 minutes total because 4 times 18 right there. Okay. Now, the new version of the test, this is going to happen in July 2023, I believe. And it's already 2023. That is crazy. Only 2 reading passages, both scored. No unscored section, I think. I think there's no unscored section. 18 minutes each, 36 minutes total, 10 questions each. So as you can see, nothing's really changing, right? All that's happening is they're just making the test shorter. Why are they making the test shorter? I think it's just a marketing thing. I think people are tired of sitting for 4 hours. And so what's happening is they're just making the test easier to take. And if they make the test easier to take, it will continue to be relevant. It's kind of like this constant war that TOEFL and IELTS are having with each other. And even Duolingo is coming into it with its own English test. Yeah, etc., etc. Okay. Are you guys ready? Are you ready for today's lesson? All right, here we go. Let's talk about the reading mistake most people make. The reading mistake most people make is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the TOEFL reading section works. So what they do is they just read the passage. And then they do the questions. This is not what the TOEFL reading passage is at all. The TOEFL reading passage is very different than that. The TOEFL reading passage is a measurement of skills. I repeat, the TOEFL reading passage is a measurement of skills. Not skill, but skills plural. Each question type actually assesses your ability to implement a different reading skill. Okay? So let's actually take a look at a table here. All right. So here are the question types, everybody. You have what's called a passage summary. This is the final question. You have what are called vocabulary questions, detail, factual, sentence rephrasing, sentence addition, inference, author's purpose. So notice these are different question types that you're going to come across. And here's the thing, they all test a different skill. There is some overlap, but they all test a different skill. For example, in order to do very well on the passage summary question, you have to be very good at the skill of determining paragraph main idea. So if I give you a paragraph, you have to be able to tell me what the main takeaway is or what the main point is. Now, vocabulary actually has two different skills. The first skill is just pure vocab knowledge. That's it. If you know the word, choose the answer. If you know the word, choose the answer. However, if you don't know the word, you have to use this different skill, which is called guessing meaning through context. Any volunteers? What does that mean? What does it mean to guess a meaning of a word through context? Let's go to Sarthak. Hey, Sarthak, what does that mean?
So like I will go through the line which
Mhm.
mentions the same word, and I will try to find out the relevance of the possible options and match the correct option.
Yeah, so like, let's say you see a word you don't understand. So you go to the passage and what do you do? Like, what's your move here?
So I forgot about the actual word. I
Mhm.
simply think it's a mathematical variable there, and what word should be there to actually match the meaning of the sentences aligned with that sentence.
So you're
So
looking
it's,
at the words around that word, right?
yeah.
Yeah, you're looking at what is the subject of the sentence, what is the verb of the sentence, what word fits here. Now, I wouldn't even say just that sentence. I would say read the sentence before, read the sentence with the word, and even read the sentence after. Okay? Detailed factual questions, what skills they're testing are two skills: the ability to scan, that means to find information quickly, and the ability to rephrase or simplify information. Because remember, the TOEFL is not just going to give you a bunch of softball answers that are super easy. What they're going to do is they're going to change the vocabulary of the information in the passage and the answer choice. That is one way that they test you. In fact, that's the number one way that the IELTS test you. If anyone's interested in the IELTS, the number one way they test you is with this rephrasing simplifying skill right here. Now, they literally have a question called sentence rephrasing or sentence simplification, where they give you a highlighted sentence and they ask you to simplify or rephrase it. So obviously, this is going to be the rephrasing simplifying skill, but it's also a little bit of determining sentence function. That means kind of what is the purpose of each part of the sentence? Is that a reason? Is that an example? That kind of thing. Sentence addition is where you put a new sentence into the paragraph. The skills that it tests are going to be understanding sentence flow, kind of like how they go in order: the first sentence, the second sentence, the third sentence, the fourth sentence. And we call this cohesion. So good writing is very cohesive. That means that the ideas flow from one idea to the next idea. To give you a really easy example, if I say, I love my car, it is cool. What is it? Yeah, that is car, right? So the word it is connecting those two sentences together, and that's what we mean by cohesion. Inference questions are when you have to think a little bit. You have to do a little bit of thinking. So again, you have to find the evidence. We call that the scanning technique, but you also have to come to these logical conclusions based on that evidence. A equals B, B equals C. What can we infer, everybody? A equals B, B equals C, A equals C. Exactly. Author's purpose is talking about why the author does something. The skills that are being tested are scanning. Again, a lot of scanning, everybody, a lot of scanning, but also determining sentence function. Why is the author doing that? Any questions about any of these question types or these skills? Let's go to Aditya. Hey, Aditya.
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
Are these questions multiple choice questions or will they be descriptive questions?
It's almost always multiple choice. In fact, I think it always is multiple choice. Now, sometimes they have a couple of different rules. They'll say like choose two answers instead of one, but it's always going to be multiple choice.
Right. And I also cannot see the chat. I don't know where the option of it is.
Whenever people can see the chat, it becomes very annoying because Zoom will say like notification, 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 notification.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Thanks.
Let's go to Akanksha. What's up, Akanksha?
Thank
and TOEFL simultaneously. So just wanted to know, like my RC is not that great in GRE. So will TOEFL passages be a good starting point for me to test these skills out, or will they?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think so. It's definitely a good start. Now, keep in mind, they're a little bit different. The TOEFL is much more based on English knowledge, whereas the GRE is much more reasoning based. But notice there's a lot of overlap with the skills. I mean, determining
Yeah,
sentence function, rephrasing, simplifying. So, yeah, I definitely think it's a good start. Okay, let's go to Shrey. Hey, Shrey.
Hi, Greg.
Hey.
So I have a question in this vocabulary question. What if in question we have like two very similar options? One is the exact meaning, and one is more, you know, close to the context that we are getting. What should be our priority in selecting out of those two options?
I'll tell you a secret. TOEFL never does that.
Okay.
Yeah, TOEFL never does that. I would say in 99% of cases, all you need is vocab knowledge. That's it. Now, there might be the rare case where a word has many different meanings and you have to use the context. But I would say in the vast majority of cases, you just need the knowledge and you don't even have to worry about context at all.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, let's do one more question, then we'll move on. Hey, Varsha, what's up?
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
So, Greg, I just wanted to ask that you're talking about vocab, that it's mainly based on vocab.
Mhm.
So, I mean, are the GRE words okay for TOEFL, or do we need to add more to the list and learn more words?
So the GRE words are actually very unhelpful, to be honest, because they're just too difficult. Most TOEFL passages won't include any GRE words, maybe one or two, but it wouldn't be that important. So you do have to include what we call TOEFL words, which are easier. But here's the thing, you might know the vast majority of them already, to be honest. It would be words like documentation, or words like emphasize, or words like accountability. So words that are not necessarily easy. If you're learning English as a true beginner and I say emphasize, you're gonna have no idea what I'm talking about. But they're definitely not as challenging as GRE words.
Got it. Yeah.
Yep. All right, so there's a couple other things we need to talk about. We have some other question types that are really not tested very often, but we still have to talk about them because they might turn up. We have something called a data table, which is the final question if you don't have a passage summary question. And the skills that are tested here is definitely scanning and finding information quickly, rephrasing and simplifying. So very similar to a detail question. It's just you have to do it on a bigger scale. They also have these questions called reference questions, which I'm going to relabel as previously referenced questions. And what you have to do here is determine antecedents of pronouns. Now, you might be, what the heck are you talking about? So that was that example I gave you not too long ago. I love my car. It is cool. What is it, everybody? Yeah, car. This is a previously referenced question. This is a reference question. Again, they're pretty rare. I used to see them a lot more. I don't see them as much, but it could turn up. And then finally, you might have these questions related to paragraph organization or passage organization. Here's a little bit of a secret. Anytime you see the word organization, I want you to think of the word. What word do you think? What do they mean by paragraph organization or passage organization? What do they truly mean? They mean order or sequence. What do they do first? What do they do second? What do they do third? What do they do fourth? So you would say, oh, first it gives a reason, and then it gives an example, that kind of thing. So that's what they mean by organization. Now, again, these 4 questions are not as common, but they might appear, so we do have to talk about them, but just keep that in mind. Okay. Let's talk about quantity. Passage summary, which is the final question, usually 1, sometimes 0 if you have data table. Vocabulary 1 to 2, detail factual 2 to 3, sentence rephrasing 1, sentence addition 1, inference 1 to 2, author's purpose 1 to 2, And remember, you're going to have a total of 10 questions right there. And then finally, remember these 4 questions that we talked about just before: data table, previously referenced, and the 2 organization questions. It's usually 0, to be honest, usually 0, like I said already. Okay, so what are we doing in this class? Which skills or question types are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about, really quickly, I forgot. These are skills that are always tested, no matter what, regardless of the question type. Number 1, you have to be able to rephrase questions. What is this question asking you? If you cannot rephrase a question or identify the question type, you're going to be in trouble and you're making your life difficult for yourself. Another skill that you have to use on every question is justifying your answer. What do I mean by justifying your answer? Any volunteers? What does that mean? Let's go to Manav. Manav, what does that mean?
Yeah, Greg, it's like giving a logical argument to why is the answer right.
Yeah, why did you choose B? Why did you choose B? What's the best way to answer that question? Should you go, well, I thought, or should you be a little bit more specific?
I guess to be more specific.
Yeah, you have to say, like, look at line number 12, or look at line 10, everybody, or look at line 5. That's what we mean by justifying your answer. And then finally, the third strategy that you should always use, what is it? Let me know. One of my favorites. Edgar Allan Poe, we call that process of elimination, which we sometimes abbreviate to POE. So remember, these skills are going to be used regardless of question type. These are essentially test-taking skills rather than specific question type skills. Does that make sense, everybody? These are more test-taking skills rather than specific questions. Okay. All right, here we go, everybody. We're going to be talking about passage summary and factual detail questions in this class. We're going to do some examples together, and then I'll give you some homework, and then we'll call it a day for lesson number 1 of this TOEFL study plan. All right, so here we go. Passage summary. It's the last question. It's worth 2 points, and the skill being tested is finding main idea, as you can see on the left right here. So what that means is when you come across a passage, like this one right here. So this is from the free TOEFL IBT reading practice questions. And remember, if you've seen this already, it doesn't matter because we're not reading it, we're implementing skills. So when you look at this first paragraph, what you're trying to do is you're just trying to get the main idea of the paragraph, the main takeaway. The fewer the words, the better, to be honest. Let's do this one together. The city of T, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, which lay blah, 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 detail, detail, began its growth by detail, detail. At its height between blah, 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 detail, detail. It's a big city. It's great. It's amazing. It had a market. That's awesome. Clearly, much planning and central control were involved. Moreover, the city had economic and perhaps religious context. So we have a lot of ideas here, but really we can simplify them quite easily. Number 1, we got this big city. Pretty amazing. Number 2, it had central control. And then finally, number 3, religious context. So what's the main takeaway here? It was a big city with central control and had some religious and economic. Yeah, you can throw the word economic in there too, Sarthak, no problem. One thing you'll notice is, did I linger on any detail? No, I was just like detail, detail, detail. So I'm just going, okay, it's a big city, had a lot of central control, had some religious and economic context, etc., etc. Okay, let's have you try that for paragraphs 2 and 3. So go ahead and read paragraph 2 and 3 and just try to get that main idea or that main takeaway. I'll give you about factors, right? Yeah, it's the main idea of paragraph 2. Subaji, what do you got?
Yeah, hi Greg.
Hey.
Yeah. So in the second paragraph, they are saying that how the city got this kind of development,
Yep.
and
So
it is
basically the
because of
factors,
national
right?
trade route. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the factors of how
And
it
it's
got
because of
big.
the two factors:
Yeah, what are those factors?
the national trade route and
Trade.
the trade route and the resources of
And also
irrigation,
the irrigation,
potential
right?
irrigation.
Yeah, so basically three factors, everybody.
Three
Number
factors.
one, good for trade. Number two, good resources. Number three,
Resources and
good water.
irrigation.
Yeah, good water. Yeah, exactly.
Good water.
Very good, Sivaji. Let's go to the third paragraph. Mukul, what would you say is the main idea of the third paragraph?
It's providing an explanation about how
That's function.
national-
That's function. That's function.
Okay.
Yeah, remember, whenever you're talking about what it's doing, that's a good skill, but it's a different skill.
Okay, we can say that it's about natural calamity.
Yeah, it's basically about this volcano and how this volcano helped the city out, right? How did the volcano help this city, the T city?
It wiped out the nearest rival in city.
Yep,
and
it basically
that's how-
wiped out the rival, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So volcano killed rival. So do you see how this is the main takeaway, whereas what you were doing was more function, as in like it's
okay.
it's doing this or it's giving that, which is another good skill, but we'll talk about that later. Okay. All right, so paragraph number one is we got this big central control, religious, economic contacts, trade, resources, water, volcano killed the rival. So again, we have to do this 3 more times. I'll just have you guys do it 3 more times. Take 2 minutes, and then we'll take a volunteer. Paragraph 4.
Yeah. Hey Greg. Yeah. So it's talking about how the officials recognize its potential, and then it talks about the.
Again, you're saying it talks about. That's telling me what the passage does. Remember, that's actually a different thing. If you're saying the passage does this or does that, that's not main idea. Main idea is what is the main takeaway? What is it actually saying?
So okay, it was like it had a geographical advantage, and that also like the volcanic stone was used as a resource, and that.
So it seems like you're just telling me everything. Yeah, remember, main idea has to be like a few number of words. What is the main point about this passage? Is it about geography?
One of them is geography, and the other is the obsidian mining.
Which one is more dominant, geography or obsidian?
Obsidian.
Yeah, there's the main takeaway. So the main takeaway is obsidian was awesome, kind of thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, obsidian is great. So do you see the difference between kind of summarizing the whole paragraph and really just getting that main takeaway? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go to Andrea. Andrea, what is the main idea of paragraph 5 here? Hey.
Main idea is trade of obsidian help have a prosperous life.
So do you think most of this paragraph is about prosperous or luxury? What is the main thing that this paragraph is focusing on? Is it about luxury and success or something else? What do we So it's true that the first sentence is about prosperous. I agree with you. But every other sentence is about something else. What is every other sentence about? New people. Exactly. Yep. So everyone, the main point of paragraph number 5 is growing population. growing population. The city got bigger and bigger, and it gave some reasons why. It gave some reasons: religion, success, the irrigation, stuff like that. Okay, let's do one more volunteer. Let's go to Domini. Hey, Domini, what's the main idea of paragraph number 6? I think you're muted.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, it's like they provided an overall picture how this growth happened and what are its impact.
Again, you're
on
telling me what the
water.
paragraph is doing, not what the main takeaway is.
It's the impact of the factors that has been described in last passages.
Not exactly. Not exactly. Anyone else want to give this a shot? So, what is the main takeaway from this paragraph? Let's go to Nidhi. Hey, Nidhi, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think this paragraph mostly tells that there was a power shift towards the elite.
Okay, what is your evidence for a power shift?
It's just that in the
You're
last-
avoiding the passage. See that? Well, if you think about it, if you think about it this way, no, remember, you always want to have evidence. You always want to have. Let's go to Shrey. Shrey, what do you think the main idea of paragraph 6 is?
How the positive image of this city led to its wealth, or
The
like,
positive
attracting
image.
immigrant. Sorry, positive feedback.
Which one is it?
Feedback.
Yeah, the main idea is this feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like this caused this, and this caused this, and this caused this, and this caused this, and this caused this, right? So everyone, the main idea of paragraph number 6 is going to be this positive feedback loop among obsidian mining and working. And then it says, like, for example, the thriving operation needs more miners, right there, which leads to new markets, which leads to wealth, which leads to more people. So it's like this positive feedback loop. Cool. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thanks.
So what was the point of all that work? What was the point of finding the main idea? The point is because there's actually going to be a question that tests you on this skill. So let's just do a quick recap. Big central control, religious and economic context. Number 2, great city, good trade, good resources, good water. Number 3, volcano killed a rival. Awesome. Obsidian was awesome. Population was growing. And then finally, we had this positive feedback loop. Once you find these main ideas, this final question in which you have to choose 3, okay, so choose 3, should seem quite easy. If you correctly identified the main ideas of the paragraphs, this question should have its correct answers jump out to you. So everyone take about a minute, and then I'll take some volunteers. Akanksha. Hey, Akanksha, what are the 3 main ideas here?
Yeah. So the first one, I think it's correct as per
Yeah.
the passage.
This is going to be paragraph number 1, everybody. Mm-hmm.
And the third one.
Yep. What
seventh,
paragraph is that going to be?
Second one.
And third. Yeah, this is going to be 2 and 3, because remember the volcano, the misfortune of the rival? Mhm.
Right. Yeah. And the fifth one.
Yep, and the 5th one. Which paragraph is that going to be?
Last one.
Yep, that's paragraph number 6, everybody. See? Oh my God, it's so easy. That's it. That's it, everybody. That's it, everybody. It's going to be so easy. So that's how this one works. Let's go to Diana. Hey, Diana.
I was confused about the second one because it says religious as a result of the cultural advances may possibly be the city's greatest prosperity. So it's
So
true, no?
I want you to just answer yes or no. Okay. Was there a paragraph in which its main point was that it developed its own religion?
No.
then boom, it's wrong. Like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me
So
see.
you have to be like very strict like that.
Okay, so what was the paragraph about that again one more time?
So remember, that's not the skill being tested. What is the skill being tested?
The main idea.
Is the first answer choice a main idea?
Yes.
Is the third?
Yeah.
Is the fifth?
Yes.
That's it. We're done.
Okay. So what's my problem then? I have to be more like.
You have to be more strict, or you have to essentially go, well, developed its own religion. Even if that's true, that wasn't the main point of a paragraph.
No problem. Got it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Shrey. Hey, Shrey.
Hi, Greg. So,
Hey.
While summarizing, I just wanted to confirm one thing. So, our main idea should be the center of attention of that passage. Like everything should revolve around it. Is it
Well,
like
this question type revolves around it. Remember, this is only one question type, right? Yeah, so you don't want to be so in love with this skill that you kind of ignore the other skills. We're going to talk about some of those other skills coming up here pretty soon.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yep. Okay. All right, let's try this one more time before we move on to the factual detail questions. Okay, so we're going to go to this one here. We're going to go to this surface of Mars one. So what I want everybody to do is find the main ideas of paragraphs 1, 2, and 3. Okay, again, take about 2 minutes, and then we'll take some volunteers. All right, everybody, that should be roughly enough time. So I'll go ahead and tell you what I think, and then you can check if you agree or not. The main idea of paragraph number 1 is we just got some big volcanoes on Mars. We got some big volcanoes. Number 2, not from collisions. So not from plates. Instead, they're from something called, what, shield volcanoes? What the hell is that? I have no idea. Who cares? Okay, oops, volcanoes. And then, ooh, that is some ugly handwriting. Volcanoes. Okay. And then finally, number 3 is why are they so tall? It's because of the low surface gravity. So low gravity equals tall. Did everybody get these main ideas? That's it. We got some big volcanoes. They're not from plates. They're from the shield volcanoes. And the reason why they're tall is because of low gravity. Okay, let's do that again for paragraphs 4, 5, 6. Same thing, everybody. Same thing. Take about 2 minutes. Let's go to Manav. Hey, Manav, what do you think?
Yeah, Greg. The fourth paragraph, it's mainly focused on craters.
And what does it say about the craters, though? Does it say craters are delicious? I love craters. What does it say?
No, it speaks about how the craters have been, the impact craters have been created on the.
Not exactly. Another prominent feature. So craters are prominent, which means there's a lot of them or a few of them?
Lot many.
A lot of them. Yeah. If you look at Mars, you're going to see a lot of craters. A lot of craters. Okay. How about paragraph 5?
It speaks about the age of.
Yep. Cratering tells us about the age. Very good. And then how about the last one?
The conditions that are below the planet's surface. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's talking about below the planet's surface. Remember, you want to be a little bit more specific. What do they think is below?
It's
Remember, this is the actual kind of a conclusion, the opinion, right? Geologists think. So what exactly do they think is below?
it's water ice maybe.
Yep, water or permafrost, right? Yeah. So the main point of the paragraph 6 is below the surface, you got this permafrost or this water ice kind of deal. Okay, cool. Great job, Manav. Great job. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and recap, everybody. We got some big volcanoes. They're not from plates, they're from shield volcanoes, whatever that means. The reason why they're so tall is because of low gravity. Paragraph number 4 says the craters are prominent. There's a lot of them. We can see a lot of them. Cratering gives us an idea about age. And then finally, below the surface, we got this permafrost or ice. At least we think so. All right, everyone, choose the 3 best main ideas. I'll give you about a minute or 2 and then take a volunteer. All right, let's take a volunteer. Let's go to Sarthak. Hey, Sarthak, what do you think is a correct answer here?
It is second, third, and sixth.
Okay, so the second one is going to match that shield volcanoes paragraph, right?
And
Okay.
also the tall height because of low gravity. So
Yep, it does say tall. Yep, it says tall height as well. You said the third one. What does that match?
prominent.
Yep, prominent
impact.
craters. Prominent craters. Awesome job. And then finally, what's the last one?
Possibility of paraforms below the surface of Mars.
Awesome. Easy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, once you have the main ideas, it's pretty easy. You just go, oh, yeah, shield volcanoes, impact craters are prominent, the permafrost is below, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, any questions about this skill before we move on to something else? Let's go to Akanksha. Hey, Akanksha.
Greg, how will these questions be framed?
Sorry? Oh, you mean like what are the directions? What are the directions? They, you can find it in the official guide, or just basically look at the last question of a passage, and you'll see how they frame it.
Okay.
Question from Manav. Hey, Manav.
Frederick, what if 2 options they are closer to the any one of the paragraphs in that case?
Well, that's not usually what happens. Remember, TOEFL, they don't want to create like a super tricky test. They don't want to create a test that's trying to fool you. They just want to create a test if, like, can you do this reading skill? Can you do that? Can you do this? So I think you're creating a hypothetical that's unlikely.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, remember, the strategy that you can always use, process of elimination, remember this? You can always use process of elimination on these questions as well. So these are the wrong answers right here in red. Can anybody tell me why A is wrong? Aditya, why is the first one wrong?
Because the passage directly contradicts the fact
Yes.
that there is great motion.
This is a contradiction. The passage says plates don't play a role, but this literally says plates do play a role, right? Very good. Okay. Can anyone tell me why D and E are wrong? Nidhi, why is D wrong?
Because there was a paragraph mentioning that we can tell the age of the Mars,
Mhm.
Mars with the craters.
So this again is kind of another contradiction, right? It's like they're saying we can't do it, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, the last one, let's go to Varsha. Why is the last one wrong here?
Because I have not read about scientists comparing the Mars and the Moon.
Well,
anywhere in
definitely
the-
below the surface. So here's where they talk about below the surface. Let's take a look. They say quite different from its lunar counterparts right there, right? It
Yeah,
says
but
quite different. Mhm.
Right, but that's not the main idea of this paragraph.
Right, and even if it was a correct piece of information, it's definitely not the main idea. Okay, so
Right.
contradict. Now, let's talk about why these answer choices are wrong, everybody. They're wrong for 2 reasons. One could be because it contradicts the information in the passage. The other could be because it's too specific. Let me repeat that. Sometimes some of these wrong answers are technically correct, The information's not false per the passage. The problem is they're just too specific and don't match the main idea. Okay, cool. Skill number 1, everybody, finding main idea. Let's talk about skill number 2. Factual detail questions. Factual detail questions. Now keep in mind, these questions are probably the most common. I repeat, these are going to be the most common type of questions. The skills that they test are scanning and simplifying, and really they're like vocabulary questions, and I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. Okay, let's take a look at an example here. Okay, we have a paragraph. Remember, factual questions always refer to one paragraph. They don't refer to the entire passage. And here's the question. According to paragraph 1, Olympus Mons differs from volcanoes on the Tharsis Bulge in that Olympus Mons blah, blah, blah. So here's the process that I want you to follow with these questions. Step number 1. You first have to identify that it's even a factual question. How do I know this is a factual question? Because does everyone see according to paragraph number 1? Now, factual questions are not always clearly identified like this, but they often are. So anytime you see according to or something like that, that is an indication that it is a factual question. And what do we even mean by factual? By factual, we mean the information is literally in the passage, like directly stated, okay? Step number 2, rephrase the question. Remember, this is one of these strategies you want to use all the time. Any volunteers? Can anybody rephrase this for me? What is this question even asking us? Sarthak, what is this question asking us?
Like, I'm not sure here, but maybe it's asking this Olympus is not similar to this bulge, whatever.
In what way, right? Like, how is the Olympus Mons distinct? Or what makes it unique? Yeah, something like that. Very good. So notice we have rephrased the question. So step number 3 is we have to find the evidence. You actually have to go to the passage and find where it talks about what makes Olympus Mons different or unique or something like that. Okay. So let's take a look at some of the evidence here. All right. So the first piece of evidence I see, which I didn't highlight, by the way, which is kind of a mistake, is largest. If something is the largest, is it different? What do we think? Yeah, right? Because it's the highest or the biggest or whatever, right? But also, look at this other evidence that we have. We have this idea that the other ones are smaller. That is evidence right there. And then we also have the idea that Olympus Mons is 25 kilometers and the other ones are 18 kilometers. Okay? So we have found the evidence, everybody. We have found the evidence. And then finally, you play the vocab matching game. What do I mean by that? I mean, on the left, you have the passage. The passage says Olympus Mons is 25 kilometers. The other volcanoes are smaller and 18 kilometers. And then what you have to do is you have to match that information to the correct answer choice. So, which one is it? If we had to match it, which one is it going to be? So clearly it's C. Now here's the key piece of information. And I know it's not difficult, but really think about this. Does the passage use the word taller? No, which is why I call these questions vocabulary questions in their own way. So really, these are kind of like vocabulary questions. These are very similar to the kind of questions you would find on the IELTS test. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at another one. Okay, so here's another one. Here's another one. So number 1, identify it's a factual question. Is this a factual question, everybody? Yep, right there, according to paragraph 4. Rephrase the question. Okay, can anybody rephrase? What is demonstrated by the fact that craters fill in much faster on Mars than on the moon? Can anyone rephrase that for me? Let's go to Suvajit. Hey, Suvajit, how would you rephrase this?
Yeah, I'd say that what's the proof that creators
It's not asking about proof. Yeah, it's not asking about proof, unfortunately. Proof would be like, what is the evidence? Like, what is the evidence? But notice they're not asking you that.
Okay.
So try again.
So
What does it mean to what does it mean to demonstrate something?
to explain,
No, it means to show. To show, right? Yeah. So what is shown by this
paragraph.
evidence that craters fill in more quickly on Mars than on the moon, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So everyone, we have these craters on Mars. They fill in more quickly than the craters on the moon. What does that show? What does that illustrate? That's what this question's asking you. And again, we want to find the evidence. The evidence is going to be right here. So in two different parts. So however, the Martian craters get filled in considerably faster. But notice, this doesn't actually say it shows anything. It doesn't like illustrate anything. That's going to be right down here. The Martian atmosphere is an efficient erosive agent, with Martian winds transporting dust from place to place and erasing surface features much faster than meteoritic impacts alone can obliterate them. So what exactly is that showing? What exactly is that showing or illustrating? So this is where we have to play the vocab matching game, everybody. What does the passage say? The atmosphere is an efficient erosive agent. Play the vocab matching game, everybody. What does that match? What does that match? Atmosphere matches what word? Wind. Right there. Efficient erosive agent. What does that match with? Efficient erosive. Powerful eroding. And then finally, agent. What does agent match with, everybody? Force. You see how stupid this test is? Do you see how stupid this test is? All they're doing is changing the vocab on you. That's it. That's all they're doing. They're just changing the vocab on you. They're just changing the vocab on you. Wind equals atmosphere. Efficient equals powerful. Erosive equals eroding. Force equals agent. So the correct answer is going to be D. All right, does anybody have any questions about these factual questions? Let's go to Varsha. Hey, Varsha.
Hi, Greg.
Yep.
It's not particularly to this, the factual question. The question I have is when this new test is going to be implemented?
I believe July. I believe July. But remember, the reading's not changing. You're going to be doing the exact same thing on the reading.
Okay.
Yep. Let's go to Nidhi. Hey, Nidhi.
Yeah, hi Greg. So, okay, so you mentioned that the test is particularly stupid, that
Yeah.
it's just changing the words. But, I mean, I didn't land on D, right? So, because atmosphere could mean surroundings as well. Like, how could atmosphere mean wind?
Where do I see surroundings in the answer choices?
We don't.
So it sounds like you're not playing the vocab matching game. Remember, it's not the vocab guessing game. It's not like where you just list 10 synonyms of atmosphere. Yeah. Yeah, so you actually have to look at the answer choices and play the... Which one did you land on?
I landed on C.
Okay.
because it was
What
the-
is your evidence for C?
It's written there that the surface of Mars is a dry desert.
Where in the passage?
1 second, yeah, I'm finding that.
So what strategy you're using here is
Mostly
justifying your
dust.
answer. Go ahead.
After mostly dust, confirming that Mars is a dry desert world.
Okay, but they don't even talk about the speed of the craters. They talk about the speed of the craters after that. So this is kind of an unrelated idea, right?
Right.
Yeah. So remember, that's why it's so important to rephrase the question. So they're talking about the question being the craters fill in faster, right? They mentioned that right here. So if you're focusing on this evidence right here, you're like before where they even mention it.
Right. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Mhm.
does. Thank
Now,
you.
notice C is not wrong. I mean, C is a true piece of information, right? But that's not what the question's asking us. The question's not asking us, right there.
Okay.
Cool. All right, so sometimes you also get these questions. So does everyone see these questions? According to paragraphs 1 and 2, which of the following is not true? Okay, so these are also factual questions, but they have a little bit of a twist to them. All right, so here's the twist, everybody. How many of these answer choices are true? 3 of them. And the strategy here is you want to look for the true information and eliminate it. Okay, so let's do the first one together. So which of the following is not true, which means we're really going to be looking for true statements and eliminate it about the shield volcanoes. So if you take a look, it says volcanoes with broad sloping sides, and notice that literally describes the shield volcanoes right there. So clearly A is true. Do we agree with that? A is true. Right there. A. Okay. I want you to find the other 2 true answers. So find the other 2 true answers. Take about a minute or 2. And remember, we're actually going to be eliminating these. We're actually going to be eliminating these right here. Okay, so go ahead and try to find those other 2. Is true, and what's the evidence?
Yeah, I think C and D is true.
Okay, so you're saying C is true, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So they have channels that resemble the lava channels. Okay, where is the evidence for that?
The last paragraph says that distinctive lava channels and other flow features similar to those
Yeah, exactly.
found on the shield volcano.
So similar is going to match with resemble, right? And stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, you're saying D is true. Where does it say the shield volcanoes are over 25 kilometers?
The first paragraph with a height of 25 kilometers, measuring some 700
Is that
kilometers.
volcanoes plural or just one volcano?
Oh yeah, sorry about it. Yeah.
So remember, this is why it's so important to rephrase the question. Yeah, this question's not asking you about one volcano, it's asking you about several volcanoes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so D is actually the right answer because it's false. So that means B is true. What is the evidence that these are smaller?
That's also, I think, the first paragraph only.
Mhm.
This says that the little smaller. I'm writing.
Yep, right there.
Kilometer.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, see that right there?
Little smaller.
Yeah, so everyone, if we were to highlight the evidence that we have here, so this is going to be the evidence for B, a little bit smaller, and this is going to be the evidence for C right here. Okay, so the true ones are going to be A, B, C. Now, another way you can do these problems is, of course, D is literally contradicted, right? D is literally contradicted because it says that they're only 18 kilometers high. So that's another way that you can do these problems right here. Okay, I think it's time to talk about the homework right there. There's the false information. Okay, so homework would be to do whatever we didn't finish in class. I'll put that on the website. If you have your phone, get ready to take some pictures of the homework. Again, it's going to be on the website, but I want to give you a little bit of a head start if you want it. You can start working on the homework right now. All right, so here's the homework, everybody. So this is going to be from the official guide to the TOEFL IBT test. So just go ahead and take a picture of this. I put the page number, I told you what to do, and stuff like that. So please take a picture because there's going to be another slide as well. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Go ahead and take a picture of this as well. number 1, reading. So yeah, hopefully you guys got a chance to do the homework. Class was just yesterday, so if you weren't able to get all of it done, I do understand. Remember, what we're doing here is we're putting together classes that are going to be used for the TOEFL study plan. So I do appreciate everybody's active involvement, and you guys are great. You guys are awesome. So how's everyone doing before we dive into this? Great. It's 11 p.m. I'll try my best. So the good news there is this is not going to be a full hour. It's just going to be 30 minutes, everybody. We're going to move through this pretty quickly. So there's a couple of things I want to show you before we start. So the first thing is, if you haven't seen it already, the study plan is starting to take shape in the website, on the website. Has everyone had an opportunity to see this on the website? Okay, great. So a couple of, and then we had to identify the main ideas of every paragraph. Paragraph number 1, applied arts focuses on crafts function, kind of how they're used. Paragraph number 2, applied arts must consider physical laws, distinction with fine arts. And then finally, paragraph number 3, the attitudes of applied and fine artists, not has, but should be have, remained about the same over time. So again, let's repeat that. Applied arts focuses on the function, or what it does. Applied arts must consider the physical laws, whereas the fine arts doesn't have to do that. They just have to focus on the materials. And then finally, the attitudes of both the applied and fine artists have remained about the same over time. Can I take a volunteer? What 3 ideas do those match with? Let's go to Akanksha. What 3 ideas are you seeing?
So the first one is correct.
Yep. Which is going to be the paragraph number 1 right there. Mm-hmm.
And the third one.
Yep, that's going to be paragraph number 2.
2. And I guess the last one, yeah.
Yeah, remember, not the last one, but remember, if you go to the third idea here, what is the third idea of the paragraph?
Attitudes remain the same, as in...
Is that what F says? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. What part of it says that it has remained the same?
Because we are talking about the physical limitation and it is still...
No, I mean, what part of it says remain the same over time?
You want me to point out the exact length in the passage?
No. If you chose answer choice F, right? So the main idea is this idea that it has remained the same over time. If you look at answer choice F, what part of that answer choice says essentially remain the same over time?
Oh, okay, yeah. So the idea is that the fine arts are still facing the physical limitation.
Not exactly. Remember, we have what's called a vocab matching game. Remember, much of the TOEFL... There we go. Yeah. So remember, you have to play the game here. You have to play the game. The game is they're going to present the same idea, but are they going to use the same vocabulary or change it up a little bit?
Change it up,
Yeah, they're going to change it up a little bit because it's too easy if they use the same vocabulary, right? It's just too easy. Okay, so as you can see, we have 3 paragraphs, and here they are. Paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3. Thank you so much, Akanksha. All right, does anybody have any questions here? Question from Sarthak. Hey, Sarthak, what's up?
Hi, Greg. So, on the option B and D, I know it's not correct. And while I was scanning through the paragraphs, I did not remember much about specific details about these examples. So, since the options were too exact, is it fine to little bit make an assumption like they were not correct?
Yeah, exactly. So B and D are going to be wrong because they're just way too specific, right? And it's okay if you don't remember these, right? It's okay because remember, the whole purpose of this exercise is to focus on the main ideas. So Sarthak, you can actually eliminate B in 2 different ways. All right, so Sarthak, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, so the first way is the way you did it. You can basically say, this is too specific. So how can this be a main idea? That doesn't make sense. The other way that you can eliminate it is you can say, this does not match one of the main ideas.
Oh, so
Does that make
the
sense?
only purpose, the only purpose is to go for main idea only.
Yeah, remember, the entire purpose of this is to find the main idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Cool. All right, I think we can do one more question. We do have a lot to cover, so I'm not going to try to linger too much on questions. Parthiv, what's up? Parthiv, you there? Oop, I think we're having some mic issues. Okay, no worries. Let's move on to our second paragraph, the origin of cetaceans. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. So here were the main ideas that I identified, because we had 5 total paragraphs. We're missing these fossils to bridge the gap between the marine mammals and the land mammals. But we did find a new discovery that helps us figure this out. Then it basically gives a bunch of evidence about this discovery. So you can see paragraph 2 and 3 are very closely connected. Paragraph 3 is essentially elaborating on paragraph number 2, as you can see here. Paragraphs 4 and 5 just point to other discoveries. So discovery number 1, discovery number 2, and discovery number 3. So these are the main ideas that I identified. Can I have a volunteer? What 3 answers do we see here? Which one of these look correct? Let's go to Nidhi. Hey, Nidhi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
Sure.
I think it's A, B, and F.
Definitely A, because that is going to match with all this idea of discovery 1, discovery 2, discovery 3, right? 100%. Okay, what else?
B.
Yep, and
B
then
also.
what part of B is that matching with? I mean, which main idea do we have here?
It's another discovery point. I
It's a discovery that bridges the gap, right? Right there. Cool. What else?
And F.
Let's take a look at F. Ooh, interesting. Does that look like a main idea?
It's not a main idea.
Then why choose it? No but. Remember, what is the entire purpose of this question?
Yeah, to give the summary.
Yeah, to give the main ideas. So remember, you have to be very strict and very demanding with the way you analyze this. So if you look at F, just yes or no, is that a main idea of a paragraph?
No.
No. Now, there is another main idea. Do you see it?
E.
Yeah, 100% E. Yeah, 100%. Because obviously these are about the fossils, right? Fossil 1, fossil 2, fossil 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you initially chose F, can you kind of walk us through your thought process there?
So I actually, when I skimmed through the passage, I saw this exact sentence written over there. So I thought that this is from the evidence is there, supportive evidence, and so it could be one of the points.
Remember, in this question type, wrong answers don't have to give wrong information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, what makes an answer wrong? Even if the information's correct, what would make that answer wrong here?
It has to, the correct answer has to reflect the main idea of the whole passage.
Exactly, or a paragraph. Remember, or a paragraph. It doesn't have to be the whole passage, but it does have to be the main idea of a paragraph. If F were a correct answer, that means the entire paragraph would essentially be about how the hind legs were used for propulsion. And I think you can agree that's a little bit too specific, right?
Right.
Cool, makes sense?
Yeah.
Cool, awesome job. Let's move on to the next passage. So desert formation was a little bit crazy because it had 10 paragraphs. But remember, the main idea, you're not really looking for detail so much. So this is what I got. The deserts are increasing fast, how it happens. Even covered areas are not safe. So even if you have ground that is covered in vegetation, it's not safe. It's happening in some areas because of drier climate conditions, but mostly because of humans. Humans. We are the worst. We are the worst. 4 human activities causing desertification, livestock, firewood, over-irrigation, and then it is very difficult to reverse. I'll go ahead and say the answers to this one. Remember, one of the main ideas is that humans are bad. right? Humans are bad. So obviously A is going to be a correct answer. Other paragraphs are about livestock and firewood. So obviously that is going to be correct as well. And then finally, there is an entire paragraph about irrigation. That's going to be another one as well. So the correct answers are going to be A, C, and D. Any questions about this one? Any questions in general about this? Okay, moving on. Paragraphs, this is the early cinema passage, so paragraphs 1 through 6. I got technology evolved, started as a peep show. Peep show nowadays has kind of a negative connotation, but I think in the past, it just meant literally something you would go watch for like 10 seconds or whatever. Paragraph number 2 is how peep shows were watched, private parlors. Paragraph 3 is large audience equals more money. Paragraph number 4, projection became very popular, different from the traditional way that they did large audience stuff. Paragraph number 5, easy to reproduce movies. And then finally, paragraph number 6, relationship with film no longer private. If we take a look at these 3 choices, any volunteers, which one of these looks like big ideas that match the main idea? Subodh, how you doing, sir?
Fine, sir. Doing good.
What'd you choose?
Sir, ABE.
Okay, so kinetoscope parlors were modeled on phonograph parlors. Does that look like one of our main ideas, modeled after?
No, it is given, but don't know.
Yeah, so that's not going to be correct. Yeah. Right there. So that one's wrong. What else you got?
B.
Which one?
B.
B. Thomas Edison's design inspired the development of large screen projection. Does that look like one of our main ideas?
Not given.
Yeah, I don't see that one either. Okay, let's try again. So remember, our main ideas are the technology evolved. It started as a peep show. Then it talks about how the peep shows were watched. It was kind of a private thing. Then they realized large audience equals more money. Then the development of projection, very popular, different from the traditional way of doing things. It was easy to reproduce the movies. The relationship with the film was no longer private. So what are you seeing here?
No, I am giving answer according to what I have done.
Okay, I can take another volunteer. No worries. Let's go to Andrea. Hey, Andrea, what are you seeing here that matches?
I chose C, E, and F.
Okay, so let's start with the first one that you chose. Okay, what did you choose?
Early cinema allowed individuals to use special machines to film view privately.
Which, of course, is going to match with paragraphs number 1 and 2, right? Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be our first choice. Okay, what was the next one you chose?
The E. The development of.
And which idea does that match with?
The technology maybe so.
Is it going to be paragraph 3, 4, 5, or 6?
3 and I think 4.
Yeah, it's going to be this area right here, particularly this one here, right? Because if you take a look at the correct answer, it does say projection right there. Very good.
Yeah.
And then finally, what was the last one?
I chose F.
Okay, F is also correct. And what does that match with?
Mass consumption. So mass 6. No longer private.
And also easy to reproduce the movies. So it was like mass consumption. Very good. Awesome job. Awesome job. Thank you so much, Andrea. Yeah, so the correct answer here, everybody, is going to be CEF. Remember, you're just playing a game. The game is you're just matching these ideas to the main ideas of paragraphs. But it seems like some of us are still falling into the trap of choosing things that don't match main ideas. So yeah, just be very, very careful about that. Okay, any questions before we move on? Going once. Going twice. Andrea, what's up, Andrea?
So whenever I make, I try to figure out the main idea. If my main ideas were a little bit longer than yours, how can I make them so small and concise the way you?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's a very good question. So first of all, you'll get better with time. I promise. Yeah, you'll get better with time. The second thing you can do is restrict yourself to fewer than 10 words or fewer than 7 words. You know what I mean? Give yourself kind of an artificial constraint that basically doesn't allow you to use more words, and that'll essentially force you to get better at the skill.
Okay. What if I choose the wrong one?
Well, I mean,
I try to come up with the most important ideas.
Sure.
But they're longer. I'm trying to cover it, especially if it's a big paragraph.
Sure.
So no more than 10 words you said?
What's your native language?
Spanish.
Okay, so if I'm learning Spanish and you're the teacher and you say, hey, you need to practice Spanish. Like you need to go to talk to Spanish speakers, go to, like maybe a restaurant and practice your Spanish. And then as the student, I say to you, yeah, but what if I'm wrong? How would you respond?
We'll make mistakes.
Exactly. Wouldn't you? You would say, hey, mistakes are part of the process, right? You would say mistakes are good. It's better than not doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't worry about being wrong. Mistakes are part of the process. They're what make us better, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, this is the artisans and industrialization passage. Here are the main ideas that I got. Manufacturing at home, not the factory. The knowledge was passed on, from expert to expert. Paragraph number 2 was the change to factories wasn't easy. The experts were still in the homes, and of course, they didn't really like this. Number 3, the factories resulted in big change. So this entire paragraph's about how the factories changed everything. Paragraph number 4, first generation did not accept easily. So this is very similar to paragraph number 2. Again, they didn't really like it. Paragraph number 5, the workers actually got together and tried to organize themselves to protect their rights. But paragraph number 6, the workers were divided and it resulted in a lot of greater inequality and unequal wealth distribution, et cetera, et cetera. We're actually seeing this a little bit nowadays with artificial intelligence and automation. So as you can see, you're seeing a lot of greater wealth inequality and wealth concentrated in the hands of fewer and fewer individuals. But these are the main ideas that I identified. Okay, any volunteers? Actually, this didn't even have a summary thing. Yeah, this had one of those questions called a data table. When you had to find specific information, it's very similar to a factual question, but we'll talk about those later. And then finally, just for practice, again, because this does not have a data table question or a summary question, these were the main ideas that I identified for swimming machines: never stop moving, physical features reduce the water resistance, how they move so easily, more features, blah, 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 blah. Feel free to pause the video here if you're watching this on the video and compare it to the paragraphs and see if it matches yours. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the factual questions. Before we do that, does anybody have any questions about finding main idea? All right, let's go to Varsha. What's up, Varsha? Any questions about finding main idea?
Yeah, hi Greg.
Hey.
So when I read the paragraph, or when you read the paragraph, so I'm sure there's a difference. I do not get the main idea. So what do you read exactly that this is the main idea and this is the generic information? How
Good
do
question.
you differentiate that?
So remember, every rule I tell you can always be broken. Okay, so I'm only going to give you general rules here, right?
Okay.
But keep in mind, every rule can be broken. Okay.
Okay.
Rule number 1 is, in the TOEFL at least, the main idea is often the first line.
Okay.
Okay, it's often the first line, maybe the second line, okay? Except in the opening paragraph, the main idea could be the last sentence. Right, but
last sentence
of the
sorry,
first
sorry.
paragraph, of the first paragraph.
Okay.
But pretty much every paragraph after that, the main idea is going to be the opening sentence. Okay. Again, that rule could be broken, but I would say it works most of the time. Okay.
Okay.
Rule number 2 is what you can do is skim the entire passage or paragraph. And if you notice the same idea repeating itself, let's say, for example, the idea is about variety, and there's a sentence in the beginning of the paragraph about variety, in the middle of the paragraph about variety, and at the end of the paragraph about variety, that's a very good indication that, hey, the main idea here is probably about variety. Okay. The third rule is look for structure between paragraphs. So let me explain what I mean there. Let's imagine paragraph number 2 says one reason, ... And then the very next paragraph says another. What do you think the main idea would be of that second paragraph, that paragraph after?
I'm sorry, you said one reason and the second reason.
and then the paragraph right after says another.
There's one more reason.
Exactly. So you don't even have to really know what the reason is. You know the main idea of that paragraph is going to be a reason. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, it does.
Yeah. And like anything, you have to start practicing this skill because remember, you're not really taught to read this way. Remember, when you're in school and your teacher asked you to read something in English or your native language, what did they say?
Just read, I guess.
Read it all. Read it all.
Read it all.
Yeah. I mean, read every word, absorb every word. Of course, this is a very bad idea because the human brain is not good at memorizing a bunch of minutia and small details. We're really good at looking for patterns and main ideas, but it is something that has to be trained.
Okay.
Make sense?
Sure. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, awesome job. All right, let's go to this one here. So we have a rephrased question and the passage evidence. And using this, we have to choose the correct answer. So I'll do the first one. The question is P and modern cetaceans have similar blank. I rephrase that as what do P and modern cetaceans have in common? The evidence is the skull is cetacean-like. So what does that mean? It means that the skull is similar to the cetaceans. So what answer do I choose here, everybody? What answer do I choose? Yeah, I obviously choose C, right there. Okay, going to the next one. Can anybody raise their hand and tell me what the correct answer is based here off of the evidence? Let's go to Akanksha. Hey, Akanksha, what do you think?
Yeah, so since their hind legs were tiny, I selected D. Could not have worked on land.
Yeah, let's start with the actual evidence. What does the evidence say here that led you to answer choice D?
They are tiny and they are non-functional, so that is why I selected D. Like,
yeah, so it's first of all, it says the legs are non-functional, right? Which matches with what?
Could not have worked.
Yeah, not walked, right? Not walked. But what about this on land part? What does that match with? What is the evidence that I know they're not on land? If you look at the, yeah, see where it says fully marine? Yeah, what does fully marine mean?
Like if entirely in water.
Yeah, exactly. It means that they're completely in the water, which of course means not on land, and the correct answer is D. Cool. Very good. Thank you so much. Awesome job. Okay, let's go to the next one, everybody. So for this one, I want to volunteer. Can somebody rephrase this question for me? What exactly is this question even asking? According to paragraph number 3, the loss of natural vegetation has which of the following consequences? Let's go to Parthiv. Hey, Parthiv, did you get your mic working?
Hello.
Hey.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
How are you, Greg?
Good. Yourself?
No, fine. So I wanted to, the answer would be how natural vegetation affected soil.
Yeah, in a good way or a bad way?
Yeah, in a good way, like in a bad way.
In a bad way, exactly. Yeah, so
It,
this is
it
how
says that loss of natural vegetation.
yeah, this is how I rephrased it. Decline of vegetation results in what bad effect? Here's the evidence: loss of the soil's ability to absorb substantial quantities of water. So what's the correct answer?
Reduced water absorption.
Perfect. Cool. Easy enough. All right, moving on. All right, so again, I'm going to ask for a volunteer to rephrase the question for us. All right, let's go to this one here. Any volunteers? Let's go to Andrea. Andrea, according to paragraph 5, in dry periods, border areas have difficulty. How would you rephrase that?
I would rephrase that saying, in dry periods, in border areas, in I'm thinking the opposite, in not drought. Can you say drought?
You could, 100%. That's a very good rephrasing. In drought. Yep.
In drought time,
Mhm.
the border areas, the limit, the
How would you rephrase have difficulty?
problems.
Yeah, 100%. Very good. So here's how I rephrased it. So during dry times, border areas have trouble. Now here's our evidence, Andrea. During dry periods, the pressure on the land is often far in excess of its diminished capacity, and desertification results. How would you rephrase that? I'm sorry, what answer would you choose based off that evidence?
A. Because
100%. Awesome. What matches with stresses? What word in the evidence?
diminished capacity.
No, it's actually going to be the pressure. Yeah, the pressure. What matches with settlement?
Land.
On the land. Very good. Yeah, so do you see how it's just a vocab matching game? Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a vocab matching game, everybody. Okay, let's do this again. Can anyone rephrase the question and then match the evidence to the correct answer? Suvajit, take it away, my man.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi, Greg. Yeah. Yeah. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Yeah, nice. Having tough time with GRE Warburg.
Yeah, so the TOEFL seems like a nice vacation, right?
Exactly. It's a little bit using me off.
So how would you rephrase this one?
Yeah, which of the following is often associated with the raising crop? So, with the options below, which is the correct answer that relates to the raising crops?
Unfortunately, that would be incorrect because the idea you're missing is which is often associated with.
Okay.
So what do they mean by that?
Usually linked to?
Yes, linked to. That's a really good way to rephrase it. Linked to. Yeah, very good. Yeah, so the way that I rephrased it is what comes with growing food comes with, what's linked to, right? Okay, here's the evidence. Raising of most crops necessitates removal of natural vegetation. What answer should we choose?
Most crops. Removal of original vegetation.
Very good. Of course, removal matches with removal, but what word matches with original?
It's the natural.
Yep. See, so it's just a vocab game, right? It's just a stupid vocab game, everybody. All right, very good. I'll take another volunteer. Can somebody rephrase this one for me, and then we will talk about the answer. Let's go to Akanksha. Hey, Akanksha, take it away. I think you're going to have to get a new microphone, Akanksha, because I think you recently booked a tutoring session, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, are you on your AirPods or something?
No, actually, I am using wired one. but yeah, I'll get that.
Yeah, you might have to get a new one because I think your microphone is probably on its last legs.
Okay, okay. Yeah, 1 second.
Sure. Yeah, so how would you rephrase this?
What factors are associated with the desertification?
So you said factors plural, and this says a factor. This says a factor, and it actually gives you the factor. So I think that rephrasing is not really going to work. So again, focus on this word kind of because here. So what exactly is the answer going to be?
Reason.
It's going to be a reason. Very good. So here's how I rephrased it. Okay. So do you see where I said taking in too much water? Right there. What does that match with in the question?
Excess water.
Yep, the ground's absorption of excess water. I then said is a cause. What does that match with in the question? Factor, very good. And then finally, I just reused the word because, right? I just reused the word because. Okay. All right. So here's the evidence. It says the water table rises, bringing dissolved salt to the surface. So what answer should we choose?
D.
D is correct. Awesome job. So everyone, you would just repeat this process. So here's another one. So this is from the early cinema passage. We won't go through all of these like in detail. But notice this is one of the except questions. I do want to talk about this one. All of the following were true of viewing films in these K parlors except. So what I want, can I have a volunteer? Does any volunteer? Let's go to Parthiv. Okay, Parthiv. These questions are quite different because how many of these are true?
So like 3 of them will be true?
Exactly. Which means we actually have to find 3 pieces of evidence. Okay? 3 pieces of evidence. So look at the first piece of evidence. Permitted only 1 customer. So which one is going to be true according to that?
1 individual at a time.
Yep. So
Option
A is out. Okay. Moved from machine to machine. What is that going to match with?
1 film after another, option B.
Awesome job. Awesome job. View a short 50-foot film. What is that going to match with?
Each film was short, option
There you
D.
go. Yeah. So that means the correct answer is C. Thank you so much, Parthiv.
Thank you.
So these ones are a little bit different because the evidence you're finding is going to be 3 pieces of evidence. 3 pieces of evidence right there. The way that I rephrased it is what's not necessarily true about viewing films in K parlors. Anytime you come across a really difficult word to pronounce, just say the first letter. It's a very good technique. Question from Subodh. Hey, Subodh, what's up?
Sir, fine, sir. Sir, though I did this question correct, but still I have confusion. While solving this, I got confused between D and C option.
Mhm.
So I did choose C.
So remember, you just have
I
to
got
be
the
very
answer.
strict. You have to be very strict. Did you have any evidence about most popular?
No, I didn't understand properly that what that price fights means.
It doesn't matter.
paragraph
Ignore
one.
that. Ignore that. Focus more on this part right here. Did we have any evidence about what the most popular was? No. So yeah, it doesn't matter that you don't know the word prize fights. Really focus on that piece of information right there.
Okay, fine, sir.
Yep. All right, moving on, everybody. Here's another one. So the question is, how did the early movies differ? So I rephrased it as, how did early movies contrast with previous large audience entertainment? It says here, which depended on live performance or the active involvement of a master of ceremonies. So that's talking about the previous large audience entertainment. So that means that the movies differed in that they did not require live entertainers. They did not require live entertainers right there. All right, moving on. According to paragraph 5, what role did early exhibitors play in the presentation of movies in theaters? I rephrased it as what was the job or function of these early exhibitors? And it says here they shaped their film programs by mixing films. Does anybody see a synonym of the word mixing anywhere? Anyone see a synonym of mixing? Yeah, does everyone see combine right there? So the correct answer is going to be A. Akanksha has a question. Hey, Akanksha, what's up?
Hello.
Hey.
Is this one better?
No, it still sounds quite muffled.
Okay. I had a question in the first one.
The previous one, you mean?
No, before this one, where we selected the price fights.
Okay,
So
sure.
actually, there is a statement where we talk about price fights, and they were, I guess, it's like quite popular. So I was confused actually between C and D because we were not exactly sure about this length of the film. So
Well, we were sure about it because this is a direct quote from the evidence. What does it say about the film?
okay, you were sure. Okay.
Yeah, so we are sure. Remember, these questions really are quite strict, which means you have to have like very concrete evidence. But we definitely didn't have any evidence about most popular.
But we did say like, or in the case of famous price fights, right?
Does that mean most popular?
No.
Like if I say, for example, you are tall, does that mean you are the tallest?
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah, so that's how strict you have to be. You have to be that strict about this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Yep. All right, let's move on. To this one. How were the images different? I rephrased it. Oh, sorry, that's my rephrasing. The question is the images seen by viewers in the earlier peep shows compared with the images projected on the screen were relatively. So essentially, how were the images in earlier peep shows different? And then the evidence says that expanded from a minuscule, which of course means small, to the life-size proportions. So basically, they just were small in size, the previous ones right there. Of course, small is going to match with the word minuscule right there. This is another one of these except questions are mentioned in paragraph 4 as consequences of the new system except. Remember, 3 of these are going to be true. 3 of these are going to be true. So loss of personal freedom, that's true. Loss of standing. What is a synonym of standing? Let me know in the chat box. Do you see a synonym of standing anywhere? Remember, we're just playing the vocab matching game. It's going to be the word status right there, status. So status equals standing, so that one is out as well. And then finally, separated workers from management. Does anyone see what that would match with? What answer choice is that going to match with? That's going to match with answer choice D, a loss of contact. Does everyone agree that a loss of contact equals separated? Remember, this is just a vocab matching game. That's all it is. That's all it is, a vocab matching game. All right, I think we're nearing the end here of this homework review. How many more do we have? Okay, so I'm going to go through these relatively quickly. If you want to take pictures of these to kind of see how I did it, feel free to do that. So here we go. We are on this one. The evidence says labor strength collapsed. These gains had little immediate impact. That's going to be this one right here. It was slow. Notice it was slow matches with little immediate impact. Immediate impact means fast. Little means no. So that basically just means not fast, not fast, not fast. Cool. Moving on. This one says the author identifies political party loyalties as 2 of several factors that. I rephrase this as what's true about the labor movement of the 1800s. Oops, I forgot to rephrase that. Hey, let's rephrase this one together. Any volunteers want to rephrase this one? And we can write it together. I got to find the right slide. Hold on one sec. All right, here we go. All right, I think I found it. Okay, let's go to Suvajit. Hey, Suvajit, how would you rephrase this?
Yeah. So among all the factors,
So the author's only talking
What are
about
the-
two factors. Two factors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What are the two factors?
What are the two factors? So why author uh, states these two factors as two of the several factors?
So that would be an author's purpose question. Like, why does the author do something? This is not an author's purpose question. So again, factor number one is going to be PPL, right? Political party
Political
loyalties
loyalties, yeah.
and disagreements over tactics, right?
Tactics.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does this mean as two of several factors that? How would you rephrase that part right there?
So why author mentions this two? No, not why.
Yeah, because remember, if you say why does the author
Why?
mention, that's an author's purpose question, which is a little bit
Purpose
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, what does factor mean?
Factor means points.
It doesn't mean point. Yeah.
Okay.
If I say, what are the factors of the explosion? What am I really saying?
What are the reasons?
Ah, so what this is really saying is PPL and DOT caused what?
Caused.
Yeah, what did it cause? What did it cause? Here's the evidence. They were divided over.
Divided over.
Yeah, so what do I choose?
It's B.
Yeah, it's B.
Greater division.
Do you understand how to rephrase that question now?
Yeah, I understood.
Cool. Thank you, Subhajit. Awesome
Yeah,
job.
thank you.
All right, let's go to the next one. According to paragraph 4, the long bills of marlins, sailfish, and swordfish probably help these fishes by. I rephrased it as long bills are useful because. And it says here, slip through the water. Can I have a volunteer? What does slip through the water mean? Dina, what does slip through the water mean here?
Slip to the water means coming through the water. Good.
Yeah, so what would you choose here? Which one of these means they can move through the water quite easily?
D.
Yeah, it's going to be D. Yeah, it reduced the water resistance as they swim. Very good. Did you have a question?
No, thank
Cool. Just volunteering. Love it. Love it. This one says, according to the passage, which of the following is one of the reasons that tunas are in constant motion? I just rephrase this as, why do tunas never stop? Why do tunas never stop? So they must swim to breathe. They must also keep swimming to keep from sinking since they lost the swim bladder. So what would be the best answer here, everybody? Yeah, it's going to be A. They lack a swim bladder right there. They lost the swim bladder right there. How about this one? Any volunteers? Let's go to Andrea. Andrea, according to the passage, one of the adaptations of fast-swimming fishes that might be used to improve the performance of ships is these fishes' ability to. I rephrase that as, what feature of fish can help ships move better? Here's the evidence. What does that match, do you think?
It matches with B.
Yeah, with B, right? Make efficient use of water currents. Can you tell me what part of that?
The swirls and eddies. Like
Yeah, and they make use of it, right? They make use of it. And of course, an eddy is a circular current, right? Awesome job. Can you tell me why A is wrong? Because A looks pretty good. It has the word eddies, right? But why is A wrong?
But it swims directly.
Yeah, the evidence doesn't say directly through. It never says that anywhere. Cool. Awesome job. Okay, let's go to, I think this is the last one. All right, any volunteers want to finish the class strong? We can bring it home. Let's go to Akanksha. Hey, Akanksha, can you read the question for us?
Yeah, according to paragraph 9, which of the following is true of bluefin tunas?
Now, this is one of these ones that we don't really have to rephrase, right? Not really. Because it basically just says, what is a fact about bluefin tunas? Can you read the evidence for us?
In water of 7 degrees can maintain a core temperature of over 25 degrees.
What answer choice does that match with?
B.
B? Did you say B?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay. So where in the passage evidence does it say can change greatly?
They can maintain
Does maintain mean change?
not really.
Yeah. So remember, to really get good at this, you're going to have to be kind of very strict with the passage. Do you know what I mean by very strict?
Yeah. Now that I look at it, I think it's C.
You think it's C or you know it's C?
I know it's
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's see what matches. Where does it say that they can be in waters much colder? What part of that?
in water of 7 degrees.
Right. And then what does it say colder than their own bodies?
Yeah. Maintain a core temperature.
Yeah, core temperature means their own bodies, right? Own bodies, exactly. So remember, you can do this. I know for a fact. What you have to do, though, is you have to be very strict and careful that you're only using evidence from the passage and not choosing something that seems true or, kind of sounds nice. Does that make sense? All right, everybody, that was fun. Tonight, we have another TOEFL reading class. We're going to talk about different question types. I hope you guys are enjoying this study plan. Remember, this class is going to be super